All right, so my circuit is plugged into power and I've got my multimeter here. Now the first thing I want to do is measure voltage. And so my leads, which are these guys, the black one should always be plugged into COM, and the red one, well, if you want to measure voltage or resistance, so that's the V or that omega symbol for ohms, you have the red one plugged in over here. If you want to measure current, amps, you take the red lead and you plug it into amps. But I want to measure voltage, so this is all correct. And then the voltage we're measuring is DC, so that's this V here with the straight line and little dots under it. So all you got to do is flick the dial over to the V. Now you are going to have some readings. This is millivolts, so this is very, very small, and this is just picking up, weird fluctuations in, mostly in the leads and the environment and the induced current from other power sources, but that doesn't really matter. Once you connect it, it will start measuring the voltage across your circuit. So what you do, take the red lead, and these are called parrot clips. If you push the base, this little, see if that'll focus, this little hook comes out. And so you can push this out and hook this onto one side of that resistor, and take the black one and hook it to the other side of your resistor, right? And there is our voltage. So we are measuring 5 volts across that resistor. Now, the savvy might have noticed that this says 5.1 volts and this says 5 volts. And we will talk about, in the future, why we might have a slightly different reading between this and this up here. But this is how we measure voltage. We measure voltage across our components, right? Now, if I want to use this multimeter to measure current, I need to make some changes. So I need to disconnect my multimeter, right? Taking the clips off. And I want to measure current. So I want to measure amps. I'm going to take the red lead, plug it in over here to amps. And then I'm going to turn my dial over to amps. Now, in order to measure current, you have to have the flow of charge going through your ammeter. And the way that we might draw that is put a circle here with an A, and that says, okay, now the current has to go through this ammeter. But to use our ammeter to do that, we actually have to break our circuit open. So let's just move this camera a little bit, because what I'm going to have to do is actually disconnect some wires. Now, where I want to put my ammeter, I want to put my ammeter between this resistor and negative, so when it gets back to the power supply. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to disconnect this wire, right? And so now, if you look at the power supply, there's no current flowing, right? Because there's no connection. And so what I need to do is grab another wire, and I'm going to plug that in to negative on my breadboard. Now, if I touch these two wires together, right, then I let current flow through that circuit. So take them apart, right, break the circuit open. There's no current can flow. Put them back together, current can flow. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my ammeter, right, my red lead, I'm going to clip over here to one side of that broken open circuit, and I'm going to connect this other lead to the other end of my circuit. And what that does now, that current is flowing through the ammeter, and we can see the ammeter is measuring the current through the circuit. So that's how you use the ammeter. Now it's really important, right? Let me just pop this out so that it will stand up on its own. It's really important that when you're measuring amps, it's in amps, and when you're measuring voltage, it's in the voltage plug. If you get that wrong, there is a fuse inside this. You can blow that fuse, which means it'll stop working for measuring amps, and you'll have to take it apart and replace the fuse. So don't do that. All right.